These three guys together probably own 1/5 of the commercial property in the city. And yet, when they choose to have lunch, they don't need to go to a white tablecloth. I mean, maybe they do, but why do they go to a place where the food is good? Because they're like me. They own enough property. They know enough for the restaurants. They probably own half of them. Why are they in this place, I say to myself on a Friday? Because it confirms what I said to you. People who know the difference between BS and reality know the difference between good food and fake food. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? It's a minor story, but there's something more to it than meets the eye. As I'm eating the halibut, I had a remembrances of things past that was very touching. I remembered my mother. God rest her soul. She passed about 5 years ago now, this December. Now, I'm not holding anything back when I tell you I had a brother who was born sick, let's put it to you that way. I wrote about him, my silent brother, in Psychological Nudity. It's a very, very poignant story, and it's something you live with your entire life. If you're a sane person and you're a good person, you never forget these things, nor should you. But I remember in the early years when my brother was still living with us and my mother didn't know what was wrong, how it was so heartbreaking. She tried to cook dishes for him that would make him better. Of course, it was impossible. And she used to make him a halibut dish, and I used to eat it with him. And to this day, every time I sit and I eat a fish stew with halibut, I remember my beautiful mother and how she tried to heal my brother. Of course, it was to no avail. But on a more positive note, so as I got up from eating the meal, going through my nostalgia with my kaleidoscopic mind moving from fish to brothers to calamari to the wharf to North Beach to Italians to Jews to Irish to whatever, I start to think about my mother, and I say to the gentleman, who must have been in their 70s, I'm guessing, in good shape, nicely dressed, and I said to him, they're not in the Martin Scorsese movie, let's put it to you that way. Didn't have to put on the act for everybody. But I said to him, I said, I know you're fans of the show. I said, did you ever hear the show when my mother called, God rest her soul? She passed away 5 years ago, but she was 88. But at 83, I called her once in Florida. And I said to her, Mom, to what do you owe your longevity? And the guy said, no, I never heard that one. I said, well, I didn't know if she even knew what the word meant because she was not an educated woman, but she was smarter than most of the Obama college graduates. In fact, she was smarter than most of the people who went to Harvard Law School, so far as I could tell. So I said, Mom, to what do we owe your longevity? So she says, she sets me up now. She answers on the radio now. She says, in my case? I said, yes. She says, no sex. Well, these guys lit up. I said, but she was from the old school. I said, my father died in 1970. She not only didn't get remarried, she never went out on another date. Somehow it didn't inhibit her longevity. In San Francisco and New York, with Sex in the City, they make you believe unless you have an orgasm a second, you're going to drop dead. You know what? Get back to me and let's see how long they live, the orgasm girls. I'll be right back.
The fusion of entertainment and enlightenment. I'm Glenn Beck, weekdays, noon to 3 on Talk 910 KNEW.
In San Francisco.
It is the San Francisco that I love, the San Francisco that I know. I guarantee you I know this city better than any of the politicians in this city. I found out most of them have never been on the bay. They've never been on a sailboat, a powerboat. They don't go out on the water. They're all like from Hoboken and typical Midwesterners. They come out here and right away they're already there. They're natives. They're already here since the gold rush. I never claimed to be here since the gold rush. You know what I mean? They're already natives. They know everything better than everybody else. At least I don't pass the torch. I'm not from Greece. I don't pass the torch.
Senator Kennedy, pass the torch.
Torch, see? Pass the torch. I still am trying to figure out what Ariana Huffington means by pass the torch. We did this yesterday. She said, Senator Kennedy passed the torch to Obama. I can't understand why all of these wealthy Marxists are so anxious to provide health care for the poor. It could be that they're better than I am. It could be that they're more compassionate than I am. I mean, I have to analyze that. It could be that I'm insensitive and not compassionate to the poor. It could be that that's the reason, that they're better than me. But something tells me that's not the real reason. Something tells me it's because they'd like to eliminate the middle class completely as it was in the Soviet Union and the Eastern Bloc before the wall fell when there was a ruling elite and the poor. Because there was no middle class, you see, to meddle with them. And that's why Obama's bringing in all of these czars. Tsar Nikolai. I got a dirty Tsar Nikolai song I almost sang. I learned it as a child around the... they used to curse the Tsar. It almost came out of me, I swear to God. Some of the old-timers used to sing it. It was a curse song of Tsar Nikolai. I can't do it. Tsar Nikolai. I know the Russian that goes with it, but you can't sing things like that. Where is Obama now? Is he seen at the funeral or not? Has he been walking around the casket? I had people mulling about. We won't talk about that one. We already covered Kennedy yesterday. We gave you a little bit of the Chappaquiddick update and the Harvard cheating update, but there's a new one came out today to make your hair stand up because you're not going to believe it. I read my own website this morning, michaelsavage.com. I couldn't believe the story. But apparently it's true. Ted Kennedy's Soviet gambit from Peter Robinson comes out of Forbes.com. You're not going to believe this story. Kennedy went behind Reagan's back in an attempt to undermine Reagan by trying to do a deal with the Soviet leader of the time, the man who was the former head of the KGB, the top man in the USSR. Kennedy went behind his back through third parties using a guy named Tunney, former Democratic senator from California, a fellow traveler. And he went through Tunney to send a confidential message to the General Secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, Mr. Andropov. And Kennedy said he would help Andropov in dealing with Ronald Reagan. In turn, the Soviet leader would lend the Democrat Party a hand in challenging Reagan in the 1984 presidential election. Now, if you really understood what this means, and if you understand this has been checked and rechecked over and over again, when you come to understand that Kennedy worked with Andropov, the leader of the Soviet Union at the height of the Cold War, the former director of the KGB, a principal mover in the crushing of the 1956 Hungarian Revolution and the suppression of the 1968 Prague Spring, when you ask yourself, how could you salute Kennedy in light of this? If you are still saluting Kennedy, then, my friends, I suggest that you go in front of a mirror. Why bring all of this now? Why bring it up now? Why do you not want to hear this now? Well, maybe you should hear this now. When President Reagan chose to confront the Soviet Union, calling it the evil empire that it was, Senator Edward Ted Kennedy chose to offer aid and comfort to the General Secretary of Russia, Andropov. That was the greatest issue of his lifetime. And Kennedy not only got it wrong, you got to ask yourself which side he was on. And you got to ask yourself what his politics really mean. You see? But I don't think you're capable of it if you're a Democrat.
Savage.
The Savage Nation.
He's got a lot of passion.
He's funny.
Really right on top of things.
Talk 910 KNEW.
Chicago, I will show you around. I love it.
All right, turn it. I'm not into this I don't. I like other Sinatra songs. So a man walks into an Irish bar in San Francisco and says to the owner, "Hey, how you doing?" They talk. They haven't seen each other in years. And he looks at the owner on the way out of the Irish bar, and he says, "Well, my friend," he says, "we're getting older." As he hits the door, the Irish bar owner says, "You're only as old as the woman you squeeze." The man turns back to the bar owner and says, "That's the problem." And the whole bar breaks into laughter. Then there's a lawyer joke I read today that was pretty funny. Man calls up his lawyer, and he says, "Hello, can I speak to Mr. Shapiro?" The secretary says, "I'm sorry, but Mr. Shapiro died last week." 5 minutes later, the man calls up and says, "Hello, can I speak to Mr. Shapiro? He's my lawyer." She says, "I'm sorry, Mr. Shapiro died last week." 2 minutes later, he calls again. He says, "Can I speak to Mr. Shapiro? He's my lawyer." She says, "I told you he died last week. Why do you call me over and over again?" He says, "I just can't stop hearing it. I just love hearing it." That takes a little... not all lawyers are bad. Mine are very good. Your lawyers are no good. It's the type of lawyer. I mean, it's the tort lawyers that have killed us. But even all... you see, here's the thing. Problem here is not all of them are bad. Some of them are good. All I want is medical malpractice claims capped as they are in California. I got to tell you something else. And I've said this, and I'm on record with this. You know, you think, oh, I'm against immigration. I don't like Hispanics. You're a liar. You got it all wrong. How many times have I said to you that the Hispanic people who are coming in here legally are probably going to save the country? If you haven't heard that, then you're deaf and you're a demagogue. Who do you think I see on Sunday with their children and the daughter wearing a little dress? It's not Mr. White. Okay, I see it. I'm not blind. I see them going to church. What do you think, I'm stupid? I see what's going on. Who do you think is cooking my food in the kitchens? What do you think, I'm blind? Like last night, I had a pizza. I broke my non-dairy diet. It was a hot night. Went for a ride with the top down. I wasn't hungry because I overrated the Indian buffet. Remember I told you that? This is like a cereal, the show. You have to listen to it every day. I can't repeat myself. So I ate too much for lunch. It was too hot to eat dinner. It was already 9 o'clock. I go into a place out in Marin County because I go back and forth. Nice place, Il Fornaio. And I said, all right, I'll have a beer. So I have a beer, and it's a hot night. One of those nice Fellini-esque nights. Too hot for me, but they come once in a while. You enjoy them. You know, sitting outside, sitting inside. Then long and behold, I can't help but watch the food and smell it. I said, you know what I'm going to do tonight? I said, I've been off dairy now 6 months. I've had no pains in my feet or my hands. I'm going to have a pizza. Why? I'm a little self-destructive.